Hello and welcome to Aquarium Dilemmas. I'm your host, ScienceGal Aquatics. I'm Kerri, and this is my co-host,
Jesse, and welcome.
Yes, thank you for listening. And if you're a member, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I say it every week, but it never gets old. Thank you. But today's going to be kind of an interesting topic that I've learned the hard way a few times, but it's just a general discussion, I guess, of what shouldn't be in your aquarium.
Well, we talk about the other all the time.
Yeah, we talk about what you should do, but maybe like just some hard lessons I've learned, mostly by accident, honestly, but just things that just don't belong in your aquarium.
Well, a lot of these are things that they just don't come across. You don't even really think about it. They don't trigger in your brain. We think about what you should put in.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lot of it probably is just common sense, but like I said, sometimes I don't have common sense.
well, and some of it's just stuff that could easily slip a person's brain. I mean, all of these are things probably we've all done at some point, not even knowing it.
Yeah, probably at least one or two. But what would be your first thing that comes to the top of your head of things that you shouldn't, just don't belong?
Don't belong in your aquarium? Mm-hmm. I will go with, to me, chemicals.
Yes. I mean, the one part of this, I will say when it comes to, I mean, obviously, if it's not aquarium safe, you shouldn't put it in your aquariums. But mine was glass cleaner. And I would just carelessly, I mean, I didn't want the water dribbles, the water spots on the front of the glass, but I didn't think about it much, but that, you shouldn't use it at all. There's a lot of really good glass cleaners on the market that's aquarium safe. But if you're using just Windex carelessly to clean the front of your glass, I would not recommend doing that.
Yeah. I mean, the residual, because there's always overspray.
Yeah, and that is just something that I didn't much think about. I was worried about cleaning the front of my glass, but I didn't honestly put any thought or concern in the fact that Windex is something that you don't want any part. It doesn't mix well. You don't want that in your water at all.
Well, I mean, continuing on chemicals, I know there's a lot of other things you can accidentally put in there not knowing it, that are still chemical based.
Yeah, when I first started keeping aquariums and it was the phase where I would take everything out. I would clean it like when I would remember, but when I would clean, I'd drain all the water and I would scrub everything clean. And I'm sure, I can't remember, but I'm sure there was times where I got something from the cleaning cabinet that would just help me along. And if it's not aquarium safe, and I know chemicals, obviously, don't put bleach in your tank. Don't spray Windex around your water. Don't use cleaning products. But even when I would strip that stuff down and I was worried about keeping my tank overly clean, which I don't recommend in any, there's just nothing comes good from taking everything out of your tank and scrubbing it clean in the sink with cleaning supplies. There's no part of that that's good in any way, but I have done that.
Well, and I think when I said chemicals, it was a very wide, broad thing, but there's several facets to it. One, you named the Windex, like overspray and stuff like that, and make sure things are safe. Well, we have resealed aquariums many times. You can get silicone from the store to reseal any household stuff you want. But if you look, there's only certain brands that will also say aquarium safe on them.
And there's some at the hardware store that says on there after reading. I was like, this will work, won't it? And then I read it and it's like, do not use for aquariums.
Yeah. So that, again, that's still another chemical. It's something we've done as a DIY thing and to save our aquarium, save money.
Yeah. But I know
however, that's still another chemical.
Yeah. When I first get, I won't say, I still wipe down a brand new aquarium, but I do more heavy elbow, like deep cleaning when it comes to used tanks. And in that part where I am trying to scrape them clean with a razor blade, I use vinegar and water, but I let them dry and I rinse them out a lot before I start my cycle and put everything in there. But if you're using cleaning supplies in any aspect, even if it's just around the tank, you're not cleaning your tank with it. Let's say you're just cleaning, it's on a dresser and you're using something to clean your dresser. Just be aware that overspray, even though it's there, and it might not crash your aquarium the first time and you might not even notice it, but it's just something to be aware of that I wasn't aware of for a long time. And I didn't have a whole tank crash on me, but I did have during that time where I didn't know what I was doing. I was just constantly losing fish, and it was like over cleaning and using Windex and crashing my cycle and doing all these things at once. It did not help. So even if it's just as easy as changing your glass cleaner I like the Fritz brand of glass cleaner for my aquariums. I just feel that it's just one less thing that can contribute to something that's avoidable.
Yeah, and all this is easily avoidable. Like I said, it's not something
It's just being aware of it. Now that I'm aware of it, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, and moving a little further forward, still staying in the chemical thing, would be, me, number one, I'm outside. I come in. I usually got really dirty hands. But just washing your hands and not having something else on your hands.
Yeah, you're skipping ahead. I want to finish up on the chemical thing. But
it's still a chemical.
Yes. But for another aspect, it's not cleaning supplies. It's not that stuff. It's chemicals that are, let's say, I guess chemicals aren't the right word to use. It's just aquarium products that are safe, but I sometimes don't use them right. And in the past, I would try to chase numbers and get everything just perfect. And I would use things to help me. And sometimes that didn't always work out. So if you have to use something for your pH or something along the lines that's a product that goes into your water, just make sure you know how to properly use it, because whether it's medicines or other aquarium aids that are aquarium safe, that are meant to go in your water, using them wrong can be catastrophic to your tank. And I have learned my lesson I'm like, oh, this is a cool product, I want to use it. And I didn't even necessarily know if I needed to use it. I just felt like, oh, it's aquarium safe, it can go in my tank. And I would come home and I would just be like, oh, even though I have no idea what's on the back of the bottle, I did not read it, I would assume I know how to dose it, and it just didn't work. So even though it's a product that's made for your aquariums, doesn't always mean it's meant to be put into your aquarium if you do not know exactly why you need to use it.
Yeah. Well, I know exactly one of the stories you're talking about, and it would be a medication that contains stuff. Mm-hmm. It contains copper, and copper does not go well with certain fish.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into another thing, and then we'll go back to, because what you were saying is right. We'll just go back to it. But in heavy metals in general, there's some, I don't know. This is one topic that I probably need to know more before I talk about it. But there's some fish out there that just don't handle them well. I'm sure there's others out there that I haven't kept and I don't know about that is more apt to handle it. But don't put coins or other metals or anything like that in your tank unless, again, it's aquarium safe. And I know the more I've gone to aquarium shows and stayed in different hotels and seen different things, I've beginning to see more and more like koi ponds and, for the lack of a better word, wishing wells that aren't you're not allowed to throw coins into there anymore, because that metal can seep, whether it's an aquarium, a pond, or whatever it is. Just don't put anything metal that's not aquarium safe. And like you said, copper, it worked for the fish that I was treating, but I did not put any rhyme or thought into the other fish in there. I was just so tunnel vision on treating that one fish that I was told needed copper, that my scaleless fish that was in that tank, in no way, shape, or form they could handle that. So even though I was trying to treat a problem, I created a huge problem for another fish because I was just not aware of what I was doing fully. I thought I was doing right, but just coins, things that contain metal, just do your research and know. Coins, no, never. They're dirty, it's filthy, like, it's just...
Well, money is like the most filthy thing on the planet, I believe.
Yeah. There are some things that are treated with copper, and I don't know all of them. It's one thing I don't know that much about, but I know what I was trying to treat for my silver arowana did not work well for that black featherfin knifefish. And so when it comes to heavy metals and coins that you see them from time to time in the past. You'd make a wish with a penny, but that's just... Even though at the time I was a kid, I didn't know better, just doing that is not good for the fish, the pond, the aquarium, whatever you're keeping.
Well, and I think all of this that we're talking about still stays in that chemical category. Like you said, you didn't even think about it. You were actually fixing the problem. You were fixing the problem for the fish you were treating. However, you were affecting something else in the tank unknowingly.
Yeah, and I don't generally, when I use medication, I usually do it at a smaller water volume, but again, I don't like to move that silver arowana, and it's a large tank, so I was like, well, I'll just treat the and it was just, my advice is, even though medications are 100 and certain things out there on the market are aquarium safe, coins, metals, those type things, no, but I know copper, there are some things that need that. Just make sure that fish can properly handle it, and it's not something that I've used once and I just don't want to use it again. But when it comes to things that shouldn't be in your tank, it's just mainly don't put money or metal or electronics or things that just don't belong in there. Don't put them in there.
Well, and it still ties in with the chemical theme. It's still generating and leaving a byproduct that leaches into the water that will cause certain chemicals and reactions either in your water or to your fish.
And plastics too. I mean, there's certain plastics that, there's a lot of things that can go in your aquarium, but there's a lot of things out there that's just not meant to be. And if it's not meant to be in an aquarium, I just don't risk it.
Well, that's the general rule.
I mean, if you can take one thing away from this podcast episode, if it doesn't belong, don't put it in there. But kind of going a little bit, I would say don't. Another thing it took me a while to learn was I thought, like, all plastic plant, I use a lot of artificial plastic plants and things like that in the past, and a lot of them can be very sharp. And if you have long flowy fins, and like the axolotl now that we have, you don't want anything sharp. And even though there's some things out there that you can buy at the pet store that's kind of cool, they look real, just kind of run your finger across them. If it's sharp, that's how I do. If it's kind of sharp on the ends, I just kind of find something else. And I know the silk ones do typically better. I've been more in the live plant thing, and there's only a few things that I have artificial ones now with. But I just am aware of sharp substrates, rocks, artificial plants, things in there that can, if it can be rough to your fingertips, chances are it's going to do some damage to some long flowy fins. So that's one thing I keep in mind now when I add things to the tank. I don't mind going to the river and getting things to put in my tank, but I make sure it's well washed, and if it's sharp, I just do my best to kind of tumble them and make them not so sharp, and not all things will work.
Yeah, well, you just don't want it. The key word is you don't want it to be abrasive to your fish.
Yeah.
If the fish is to
That's a better word.
bump up against it, is it abrasive? If it's abrasive to your hand, then it is probably going to be quite abrasive to a fish.
Yeah, and even I've learned some fish do better on sand, and some like a little bit larger substrate. It just is, I just don't want it sharp. So when they're swimming past it, and same with decorations, some of those, even though they have a lot of hidey places, if you run your finger across those, it can be sharp, and I just don't want that in my tank.
Well, yeah,
Especially if your fish is using it as a hiding place, and then they swim out, and then their fin gets ripped, and it's all because something sharp that. And sometimes a little sandpaper, you can kind of make that a little smoother.
Oh,
but
yeah, there's a million tricks to make things smoother.
But just keep in mind, if you have something sharp in there and your fish swims past it, and they can get, like you said, and it's abrasive, they can get scratched or their fins can be split. You just don't want that. If they have a cut and it can cause problems you just don't want.
Exactly.
And then it goes along too if you're out collecting, like we've talked about in the past, or you find something cool driftwood wise. I've been lazy in the past, I'll admit. I've been lazy and I've just thrown it in the tub before outside. And it had leeches. I call them, I guess they're loaches, leeches. It had some unwanted pests on that driftwood. So I would say driftwood is 100%. If you haven't had driftwood in your tank, try it. I love it. But make sure you boil it and get it prepped before it goes in your water, because you don't want something pest-wise to be brought in and get in your tank.
Well, you don't want to introduce anything into your tank that's out of the norm of what you're doing. So you're bringing in a foreign object inside a closed system, which is obviously not going to end well.
You just don't want that when you can just prep it a little bit, because there's some awesome finds out there, but just don't be lazy like I did. Just get it prepped, boiled, and before you use it, and it does go a long way.
Well, moving forward, what is another one?
You can talk about our dirty hands.
Oh, back to chemicals. Dirty hands. I always have pretty dirty hands for messing with stuff outside and this, that, and the other thing. However, I know on the flip flop of it, you being the girly girl, you do have the lotions and that. Again, it's just another chemical, like whether I have grease on my hands or what. If you're sticking your hands in your tank, you got to think about what has been on your hands and if your hands are clean enough to even go in that tank.
Yeah. And even just let's just say you washed your hands and you put them in your tank, you make sure you get all the soap off. It's just, like you said, you don't want to introduce anything that you just don't want to introduce something that doesn't belong into your aquarium. And a lot of hands are dirty.
Well, I mean, and
even like when I go upstairs and do my nails, let's say I just took off my fingernail polish and then I come down here and do a water change. There might be some residual acetone or fingernail polish remover or something on my hands, and I can't see it. I don't know it's there, and then I just go. So you just want to always make sure your hands are clean, but not only clean, that all the soap and everything is dried before. And don't put lotion on your hands and then come down here, and because it's just something that even though it might not do something, you don't want to take the chance of it doing something, and you just don't want something that doesn't belong.
Well, and you would have to read the back of every lotion you put on your hands and moisturizer cream and try to figure out exactly what chemicals are in there and how they would react with your water. And who wants to spend the time doing that? Would it be easier just to not put it on your hands before you put your hands in the aquarium?
And a lot of times, too, let's say my hands are just clean and properly dried and I don't have this, that, and the other. Sometimes the biggest, how can I say this? The biggest destroyer of my own aquarium is my hands trying to be creative in my tank, thinking that, I need to fiddle with this and I need to fiddle with that. And then I just destroyed things. And so, yes, my hands, not only you want them clean, but sometimes I think my tank needs my assistance. When it does not.
It's doing fine on its own.
Does that make sense?
Yes. The only thing bugging that tank is you.
Yeah, sometimes I do too much. And it's a fine line because I'm enjoying the aquascaping part of keeping aquariums more so than I ever did. But there is a point where I just need to step back and enjoy what I've created and stop fiddling with it and let it just be, if that makes sense. So sometimes that tank doesn't need my help.
My favorite saying, sometimes less is more.
Yes. And then I guess another thing that I was thinking about for this is, you came up with this one too, you jogged my memory when we were talking a little bit, is when you get new fish in, I would acclimate them, and then I would just open the bag and put everything in the bag into the tank. And you do not want, even if it's a trusted friend, it's your best friend, you help them do their water changes every time. You went shopping to help them buy them fish, and you just know the ins and outs of that tank. You still don't want that tank water from that bag that you brought in from your new fish in your aquarium. So if you can, use a net, let the fish go into the net, and then get rid of that old water and then put the fish in the tank after you've acclimated them. Don't introduce that tank, whatever tank water's in that fish bag when you get new fish and you bring them home. Don't put that in your aquarium. Just don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's number one. It's just bad juju because you're introducing, number one, their water, which you haven't probably tested. And even if you have, depending on how long that bag's been in there, we've done countless things on cycling and everything. There's big reactions that are happening inside of there during that transportation. You could be introducing all kinds of ammonia. There's no telling what you could. Again, it goes back to the chemicals in my mind. You're adding things that could chemically change and alter your water parameters, sometimes drastically, doing massive things bad to your already established aquarium.
I just, in my mind, now that I'm aware and I don't do that anymore, I think more of illness and bacteria and ick and things like that getting introduced that I just want to avoid at all costs. You are right. Like you never know what's in there. And even I went to a phase where, that's why I said it earlier, where I was like, well, if I get them from the pet store, no, I don't do that. But if I get them from my friend, I trust them. Their water's okay. And it's just, don't get in the habit of picking and choosing. Just treat it all the same. You just get rid of that water. There's no need to keep it. It will not do you any benefits. It won't, it won't manifest your friend in your fish room if you keep their fish water in your fish. Like, just don't do it. And it will save you a lot of unnecessary headaches if you just don't put that fish water in your aquarium.
My main advice would be do the plop and drop. Don't save that fish water. And if you can, quarantine that fish before you put it in the intended aquarium that you ultimately would like it to be in.
Yeah. Quarantining is always a good idea. And then if you can, this one's hard, and I still don't follow my own advice because equipment is expensive. But if you can, and you have more than one aquarium, try to get tools and aquarium vacs and nets and everything for that tank only. And like I said, I'm a hypocrite. I said that, and I have as many siphons and things as I possibly can. And over the years, I know I will hopefully be there. But you don't want to cross-contaminate with tools, your hands. Just, if you're working in a tank, work on that tank and then try to clean up. If you have to use the same tool on a different tank, then clean it, get it cleaned up so you're not introducing something to another tank. And then, because with me, I always think it's mainly ick. Ick is the one thing I've dealt with the most. I don't deal with it often, but it's the one thing I deal with the most. And in my head, even though I don't see it in that tank, chances are it's somewhere in that tank. And if I use something in that tank and I go over here and use it in this one over here, just because it's not active in this tank doesn't mean it can't. If some stress occurs or something happens, it can activate over there. And if I don't cross-contaminate, then it doesn't have a chance to get in there. So it's just, in my head, that's what goes through it. If that's realistic, to keep tools for you for every tank, it is hard. I don't even have it. But if there's any way that's possible. It's easier if you do have one tank because then you just need one set. But even just your hands, like going back to there, I mean, there's been times when you first started helping me that I was like, oh my gosh, don't go from that one just to that one. But it is hard when you're trying to do water changes on multiple tanks and you don't, just the best you can, don't cross-contaminate. Work on one tank at a time and then clean up and get your tools sanitized and then go on from there. You just don't, like the old fish bag water, you just don't want something in the tank that doesn't need to be there. And it's just cleaning up after yourself and taking your time and working on one tank at a time. And for me, it's really hard because I bounce from things and I'll go from here to here to here to here. And I just had to learn to stop doing that because it would create problems.
Yes, and I didn't even think of it in the beginning until you pointed it out. Was yes, if I'm sticking my hand in this tank and then I want to go over to this other one, I need to stop, clean my hands off, make sure that's good because I could possibly just drag something over by accident and not even know it.
And it doesn't always happen. Like but you just don't want to take the chance. And so it is hard to slow down and take your time sometimes for me because I get, that's one thing is learning is don't cross-contaminate. And even just that goes a long way.
Oh, yeah. Because then otherwise you're like, then what all of a sudden just happened?
I'm just trying to think back.
and then you're going, well, what happened? This tank was fine 2 days ago. Now I have this major.
Well, and like right now, I don't have everything looks really good and I'm thankful, knock on wood. But there's been a point over the years that I can I can't give you specific dates, but this 30-gallon beside me, I know at one point that tank, one of the fish, it looked like it had some kind of bacterial infection. Has it had it in there in a while? No, I have different fish in there, but that doesn't mean if I work in that tank and go over here that it might flare up. Will it? I don't know. I just don't want to take the chance. And I know this tank behind me. It hasn't had ick in that tank for a really long time, but it's had ick in that tank at one point. So I don't want to work on that tank, even though it looks clean and healthy and everything's swimming and looks good. I don't want to go from there and then go over here and work on this tank. And then I introduce something to that because maybe those fish, not really, but just for an example, maybe I just got them in and they're a little stressed and they're a little bit more prone to have a lower immune system. And even though
a little more susceptible,
this one's not, that doesn't mean this one won't. And I just don't want to take the chance. And whether it's my hands, an aquarium vac, an aquascaping tool, it does add more time to the schedule, but I don't have the problems I used to have either. So it takes more time, but it saves me a lot of fish.
Yeah. Well, and it saves time of treating, again, back to chemicals. Then you got to decide what chemicals you can put in the tank to treat it.
Yeah. And it's just taking your time and slowing down does do a lot. And then I guess thinking some more is the right type of water. And you don't want to, I don't want to say never. There's always fish out there that need different parameters and they might need, so there's always exceptions to the rule. But for my fish in my care in my fish room, I don't want to use rainwater. I don't want to use distilled water. I don't want to use water that comes out of my humidifier thing I have over there. I like to have water my fish room likes harder water and not a low pH. And I know using that type of water for the fish I have would not do me any favors. Like I said, there are softer water fish out there that might need that. I do not have any experience with them. So me personally, I don't want to use that type of water. So making sure you're doing water changes with the correct water, which is for me, I like to use my tap water with prime, generally speaking, and then I let it sit for a while, and then that's how I do my water changes. So making sure that even the water, if it's whatever you're used to, but for me personally, that type of water it doesn't do me any good because there's no minerals to it.
Yeah, like ROD.
like you can use that. I highly recommend that type of water, but you got to remineralize the RO water. So again, I don't keep soft water fish, low pH fish. I don't keep all that. So me personally, I just like my tap water with dechlorinator when I do water changes.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to your water parameters and the chemicals and what's in your water, your minerals that are in your water. If you do require that softer water, not as high a pH, then yeah, you might have to go the RO route or the distilled water route and remineralize the water for said tank.
But generally speaking, like you say, for me and our water, our fish we keep, I don't recommend using that type.
Well, and that's just knowing your fish and knowing your water parameters for the said fish that you are keeping.
Yeah. And then another thing, it really just comes down to our kiddos, the things that don't belong in the water that, like, I encourage the kiddos to feed the fish. I like them to come down and enjoy the fish room, but we've said this in the past. There's been times when they were little that they would before I even knew it, just dump a bottle of fish food in there. And even though I highly recommend you doing proper feeding the proper food, don't overfeed. Don't put too much food in your tank. And then they've spilt Gatorade and some over the years and Nerf gun bullets and things like that. And nothing luckily drastically happened, but things like that. Nerf gun bullets don't belong in your tank. Gatorade doesn't belong in your tank. And sometimes
foreign objects.
Sometimes the kiddos, they're so quick, but all I could do is clean it up as quickly and just as quickly as I could, just do a water change and get it cleaned up. But even though the kiddos, I really enjoy them coming down here and enjoying the tank when they were little bitty, just make sure that they don't sneak something. Sometimes they would throw something in there and I'd be like, where'd this come from? Where's this like Lego man coming from? And it's just things like that if you find it, just get it out as quickly as possible because it's just not meant to be in there. But I do highly encourage the kiddos to come down here. But when they were little, that was a challenge of things that's like, what's going on? But just things like that. It doesn't belong in your tank.
I'm going to stick with just the overall because I've seen it and had to swipe floating Nerf bullets off the top of the water. Let's just stick with foreign objects.
Yeah.
Be mindful if you have children or other pets that things could and probably will get knocked or added into your tank without your knowledge.
Yeah, the cat's notorious for the one upstairs always knocking things over. And all I can do is, I don't always see it, but when I do, because I check on the tanks all the time, I just tried to get it out and clean it up and do a water change if it's certain things the best I can and move on. But that stuff just does not belong in your water. But trying to think back, the only other thing I can think of that I've used that I thought would work in my aquarium that did not was I was trying to use craft paint. And I can't remember. I was trying to adhere rock, so it had to be some kind of glue. It could have been hot glue or something like that back in the day. I was trying to use it for a pleco cave of some sort, if I remember right. And that craft paint, I don't recommend using it. I'm sure there's paints out there that are aquarium safe if you look hard enough. I gave up after this one time, and now I don't paint anything that goes in my aquariums because it eventually just peeled off and I didn't lose fish, but it just dirtied up my water. So I don't necessarily recommend using just the craft paint at the store to paint aquarium decorations and hot glue to put in your aquarium. Don't do that. It did not work. It gunked up my water and it was just completely unnecessary. So that type of stuff does not belong in the aquarium, I would say, from my experience.
I don't have any experience with the paint, but I do know they make a lot of varieties of glue
that
you can use in your aquarium that specifically say on them aquarium safe.
Yes, I wish
and they work great because you can look up any aquascaping website. They have tons of different varieties, anything from sprays to actual tubes.
That one that
anything that you would want glue wise, it is out there for aquariums. Now
it's
the paint,
a little bit more
I have
expensive,
no clue.
but it's worth it. And I know since I've been doing this attempting to do aquascaping, there's one man that I'm talking about. I can't remember the name of it, but you glue it and then it has a spray that I think it's water activated and it's like instant and it holds tight. I glued my aquascaping tools to the driftwood in my fingers. So it glues real good. I know, like you said, I know there's some really good aquascaping glues out there that are 100% aquarium safe. And there's like no wait time. It's like instant. But like I said, with the paint, I'm sure there's something if you look hard enough for some. I'm sure there's something. There has to be. But what I was using, just the cheap craft paint from the store, did not work. It just, it peeled right off. And just like I said, the water just, it did not work. So don't do that. But kind of wrapping up, I guess, a little bit. Don't add sharp things to your tank.
Yeah, nothing abrasive.
Don't use. And when it comes to coins, plastics, chemicals, cleaning supplies, things like that, don't do that either. That doesn't belong.
Like I said earlier, I think the main thing would be just keeping your head when you're going to add anything, including your hands, into the tank. Think about chemically what you're doing there. Yeah. Am I adding something to this tank? If it's metal, well, that's not good. What am I introducing there? And that, in my mind, is the easiest way to keep from adding things, because most of what we've talked about in some way is going to change your water parameters chemically, whether it be the overspray of ammonia from Windex, whether you're adding something metal, like you said, into the tank. I mean, it's all comes back to, am I adding something that could change my water parameters? Yeah.
And if you go collecting, make sure, if you find that really awesome piece of driftwood, make sure you get it boiled and cleaned up before you add that to your tank, so you don't get any unnecessary, unwanted pests introduced, or bacteria or anything like that. You just don't want that introduced to your aquarium.
Yep. And that ties right into with foreign objects and foreign objects from other little family members or furry family members.
That rabbit we had, man. Whew. If you use medications or anything like that that is aquarium safe that you want to put into your aquarium, make sure you know the reason why you want to use it, and make sure you know how it's meant to be dosed and used, because just because it's aquarium safe doesn't mean that it can't cause you some harm if you misuse it.
Yeah, it could be, it's safe for your water, obviously,
but
it may not be safe for all of the fish that are in your
depending
water.
on the medication, if it's copper, or even just if it, let's say everything can, let's say you have ick and you're just using ick-X. It will work. It treats ick great, but misdosing it and misusing it can lead. Just make sure that you read the directions really well, because there are some things out there that it does work well, but in my personal experience, when you misuse it or you don't, you're just throwing things in the tank to try to treat for whatever, because you have no idea what, and you're just throwing this, that, and the other, and there's no rhyme or reason to your dosage, and you're not water changing according to the directions, and you don't know if it's compatible with all the life in your tank. You just don't want that. So even though it is aquarium safe for whatever product you're looking into, just make sure you know why, the reason why you want to use it, if it's necessary, and how to use it properly.
That's a very good point.
Again, don't put your hands in the tank unless they're clean. Don't cross-contaminate the best you can. I know it's hard to get tools and things for every single tank when you have multiple tanks, but even if you don't, just clean them up and let them sit and dry fully before you use them on a different aquarium.
Yeah, that's a really good one. That was one that I messed up on the early stages more than once.
Yeah. Don't use the fish water that comes with your new fish. Don't put that in your tank. Don't use that old bag water. And don't use just paints, glues, silicone, if I can talk. Trying to think and talk at the same time doesn't work. Just like you said, chemicals, just don't use them if they're not aquarium safe. And if you have to like ponder, just move on to one that you know is.
Very much so. I think we've covered a lot of good things on this, because we have so many times went over what to add to a tank, what to do to the tank, all the great things. I think it was time to turn the wheels about what you don't think about, and hopefully that this kind of helps get your brain jump started the next time you're fiddling with your tank, going, oh, well, maybe I should do that, or maybe no, I should not do that.
I mean, I feel like a lot of it is common sense. Like if it doesn't belong, don't put it in there. But at the same time, sometimes I have to hear things multiple times before it sinks in. And your aquarium is an environment, it's an ecosystem, and it's their home, and they need clean water. And you don't want to just contaminate that by introducing something as just off your hands. So, I mean, even though it is common sense, I think it was worth talking about.
And I won't call it clean water. I will call it a stable environment.
Yeah. But hopefully this helped. And even if, you knew everything on the list, maybe there's someone who didn't, and you can pass this episode along to them for them to listen to. But I greatly appreciate you being here and joining the discussion. And if you want to watch this podcast, head over to the memberships on ScienceGal Aquatics on YouTube. And if you are a member, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Thanks for being our friend. But thank you for listening, and we will see you and hope to talk to you soon in the next one.
Yep. Check us out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.